Hello.
Finally, I'm here. I had to race. I was doing gangster driving. Apologies. I understand it was meant to be 5:30, but here we are. We're making it happen. Okay, so I see you ladies have already started the conversation, and it's great, right? This is a panel that is supposed to talk about, the perspective of generation two, the second generation in running family businesses. And I know we've had quite a number of conversations today, stories shared, about how to include women in business, ensure that women are supported and all whatnot. If you look at this side of the world, Nigeria precisely, you'll find that because of our cultural nuances, right? Typically, families will look up to their male children in terms of who is going to take, the reign of running the family business, right? And sometimes the women are forgotten in terms of preparation. So you see that the baton of leadership or even the preparation for you to be able to lead, most times we focus on the male children and prepare them. But in certain instances, which I don't know what your experience is, and that's what I'm going to be asking you, right? So, you have a practical experience of, stepping into managing the family business now with your brother, right? And how has that been, really? Were you always prepared for this?
I certainly was not prepared for this. So I've been, as a person, I love my independence, and I always wanted to have my own thing. I never wanted to be someone's daughter working for someone's father's company. So I went off and did my own thing, but I was always drawn back to something to do with The Guardian, I must say. So that started off by writing articles. And then my brother, he often seeks my counsel about certain issues. So I would say I started getting quite involved when there could be some crisis going on, crisis management. I'm not trained that way, but that's when I came in and stepped in. Maybe some disputes, with the company. Not major ones, but he'd need advice. So I sort of learned a little bit about how the company worked, but it was always from afar. I never really wanted to make that commitment. But further still, I was abroad. I left Nigeria in 2010. So it didn't seem feasible. And then obviously I had got married, have young children, so obviously I didn't have even the time, let alone coming to Nigeria. But actually, with time, because my brother is now the CEO, and even before that, I was always in the background, and so the time has become right for me to actually have a role for myself. And so we were trying to rack our brains, like what should the role be? I have done marketing and PR, and I have done events like this. People think I'm a media professional, but I'm actually not really. I do a lot of things, so I can't really clearly define myself. I'd call myself a small entrepreneur. But because of the experience I've had, like with my legal background, family's had some sort of battles to face, and I've been able to be sort of quite strategic and know how to sort of overcome things. And I love people as well, first and foremost. I love networking. So I think we decided to create that position for me, because then I don't have to sort of specialize and be, in one specialist areas, but I have to move around department to department, talk to the heads of departments and see how I can help, because the CEO might not always be available, or maybe they want to run something past me before the CEO, or the CEO wants to run something past me as well. So it's, I must say though, I had to put myself out there, to actually sustain the communication. Now we use Zoom a lot, even working around the children. I really have to make an effort. There was nothing in place. But I do remember before my father died, he said, "You're the eldest, and it's not that I don't want you to lead, but obviously in Nigeria, it's going to be your brother, but you are the leader. You are the one, and you need to keep an eye on him. You're going to go off, you're going to get married, you might not even be in Nigeria, but I really want you." And I just remembered that. So as time's gone by, I keep remembering actually what my father said to me. And I can go on. Can I keep going? For me, it's about legacy. My father created a legacy. It's not just about, I want to take over. It's like, how can you restore or sustain, well, actually in some cases restore because of the economy right now. what he started. And I actually feel very strongly about that. I'm not saying every sibling should be equal necessarily. Not everyone is interested. But as long as there's a set of rules, structures, and then an enabling environment or document that can allow you to move, in the succession way. Obviously, that can take years, I've heard, 10 years, 20 years. But as long as there's some strategy, there's something clearly defining path. I mean, you could spend months even trying to decide what the name, let's say you were going to set up a family office, should be called. What structures should you use? Should you get rid of things? Should you leverage? I mean, that's where Natalie comes in, because she's exposed to these people. So I've learned a lot in a year. Haven't made any decisions, and I'm getting everything together, and I have to then bring my family in, and we have to talk about what works. It could be health care, it could be life insurance, it could be education, it could be rules of conduct, what's acceptable behavior with the family, not to ruin the name. I mean, all these sorts of things. And it's just really interesting. So that's where I'm at the moment.
I love the fact that you're sharing your story, because it's really about bringing all the principles and everything that we're learning, to bear in terms of what really happens in life. And I'm going to share a story. A lady reached out to me, I think about 2 years ago. Her mom had just passed, and her mom had built, a school. And she's run the school for about 30 years. So that was really her life's work, right? And she was the only girl, And she just was in a place where she felt lost. She didn't know what to do with the school, because obviously education was not her path, right? She was doing something else. And then she was wondering how she would go about it. And that brings me to, to you, Natalie. You work with a lot of family offices, and really that's a structure that families typically use to plan for the wealth of the family and the legacy of the family. Listening to her, and of course having interacted with her and maybe the rest of the family, what would you say to somebody that is, listening to us, watching us, who is thinking about, the next generation in terms of how am I going to pass this family business? How will we ensure continuity of the family business when the first generation leaves the stage? What, in your opinion, would you say are the core things that every family should be putting in place as a form of structure that allows that transition to happen seamlessly? And how should they really go about it?
Thank you very much. That's such a great question. I think normalizing equal opportunity in any family around the world is very important. And women have been managing multi-generational wealth in the background for so many generations, right? But I feel like it's only in our generation that there's really a commercial opportunity in doing so. So women are very much at the forefront of a lot of these commercial opportunities, and they're also choosing impact focuses because they're always thinking about their families. And so thinking about healthcare, thinking about sustainability, thinking about education and skill development in the workplace, and so many other opportunities that now people see businesses in, rather than just being philanthropies. I'm a huge fan of charity, but in impact investments specifically, that women are leading companies now where they can do well by doing good. And we're seeing this in Nigeria, we're seeing this in every region we target. And I know that I want to build generational wealth in my family. I know that I want to teach girls and boys growing up that they will have the same commercial opportunities, and it will be based on merit.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. You were talking about all the things that you were doing and how you sort of have been prepared even though you were in the background. And I dare say you are 1 out of 100 or 1,000, really, families who have been very deliberate in terms of preparing their children to take over the baton, right? I want to ask you a specific question, because now you're in the mix of it. And what I've seen with relating with second generation of family businesses is just this tussle between the first generation and the second generation. So it almost looks like the first generation is not willing to really pass the baton. And the second generation is trying to take the baton. How have you been able to navigate innovation, bringing innovation, new ways of doing things into the family business versus the way we've always done things, the way we've always won in the past, the traditions, of the family and how the family business has run? That, I understand, is a peculiar challenge that most second generation, family business owners often face. How is that in your own case? How are you navigating it?
Hello? Okay. I have actually quite a specific example. I can't take full credit because my brother Toke started this off, but bringing The Guardian digital, that was a very big step. I'm not aware of all the conversations that went on between my mother and him, but I'm sure maybe there was some disagreements. But he really, really believed in it, and he invested a lot. I think his own funds, because he said that we have to go digital, and I believe The Guardian was the first. And so now I've taken that over, and even now, it's probably 7, 8 years later, technology is even changing even more and more, and there's more progression, there's more investment needed. And so we can't have the print run we had when my father started. It's just the costs are too high, the exchange rate, so we have to think differently, and that's actually probably why my role was created, because I have to think out of the box. And luckily my mom she's a chairman, she's let go, so sometimes we just do things quietly, and then once in a while she has a surprise. Like, honestly, she didn't know about this until I landed in Lagos. So I think we've come up with a plan whereby we just try to sort of get on with things, but always keeping the respect and having in mind that we're doing this to make things better, simplifying things, mitigating against threats, litigation, or whatever it is, or just the company collapsing, or costs. So I think because we approached it that way, so we are doing it maybe at a distance, but we're thinking about it first and foremost as a business. We're trying not to get emotional about it. We're actually trying to look at it as a business that we believe in. I mean, I said I did my own thing. I've always loved media and writing and storytelling. I want to make films one day. So I'm lucky, out of my 5 siblings, and Toke as well, that we love media. So it was actually very easy for us. But I mean, if it was another type of business, like, I don't know, a construction company or engineering, or, I don't know if I would be here. It would probably be another sibling. I think being the eldest also helps, and also there are 5 of us. I'm the one who's always straddled both London and Lagos, if you add it up in time. So I'm quite used to this life of spending some time here, spending some time there, and I think that's also made it easier to be sort of like a glue, because we do have family in both places. So my sisters sometimes feel guilty, and they say, oh, we want to help, and I said, well, you know, it's hard for you, don't worry. When I get some ideas, I'll give you feedback and carry them along. And I have big plans for The Guardian. There are so many different products and segments, and each of us has our own. So I'm actually trying to set things up for them. And once it's done, they don't have to worry. They can have an instant job creation. So even this festival, I have a sister who's probably going to take it over because she's good at events. I have another sister who's into recruitment. There's Guardian Jobs, which used to be very popular in print, but we haven't really digitalized that. So yes, I'm just trying to set things up. I just think with 5 of us, I wanted to avoid maybe disagreements, not being able to communicate properly because we're all very busy. We have young children. So I think I literally had to put myself out there. There was no plan.
Thank you. And, like I said, I think your family is particularly lucky, that the children are interested or have interest in the line of business that your family has decided to build a business in. I'll come to you, Natalie. She mentioned something, I'm just going to piggyback on that very quickly, which is conflict resolution. When family businesses pass on to the next generation, you often find situations where not all the children are involved directly in running the business, right? And so there could be instances where some people may feel sidelined, or they don't have clear line of sight in terms of what is happening with the family business, or they don't quite understand, where things are, or there's no proper communication. And then, of course, conflicts can also arise in that process. How would you advise families to deal with conflict resolution and being able to clearly articulate who does what, how they ensure that there's proper communication, right, amongst the next generation in ensuring that the business continues to thrive and, of course, scales to better heights than what the first generation has done?
I think it needs to start earlier on, because more than ever before, people are pressured to go into particular industries as an adult, but people aren't asked from a young age what they would like to do. And I think some people would naturally like to go into a family business, and some people would like to do something completely different. And when you have multiple siblings, it was great to start that conversation early and say, well, what would you like to do? Would you like to be involved? Would you like to be the face of the company, the face of the family? Would you like to live in another country, do something completely different? And I think that often comes as a surprise when that conversation is started earlier.
Fantastic. I want both of you to answer, which this is going to be like my last question. I need you to speak to that G2, a daughter who is in the family business. Maybe by now she's already feeling, okay, I'm not even included, nobody seeks my opinion on things, I don't know what's going on in the business, right? How would you, show a next generation female, right, to prepare themselves to be included? Remember, we're still in the, in the spirit of inclusion and all of that. How should next generation female business owners or people that are in the line of family enterprises prepare themselves to be ready? Because you may say that it's your brother that is being prepared, but what happens if something happens and your brother is not able to take the reins? It's possible that the baton falls on you, right? So how should the next generation females or women prepare themselves to be able to take their family businesses to the next level?
I think women are always nurturing that message in the background either way. And Anita, you said you don't have a media background, but you're a fantastic public speaker. So I don't know if you've been doing this for a long time. I want to know if you consider running for president. But I think that conversation needs to start a lot earlier in a lot of families. Did you have?
I don't think maybe as individuals you can prepare, but I think the best thing is to have something documented, like a constitution maybe, which is like an agreement, and it will have different scenarios in place, like if this happens, this could happen, and conditions and variables, and start somewhere, and obviously it could be built over time and varied. I mean, that's what I imagine would be the way. Because I think at the end of the day, you're trying to just avoid conflicts, or, for example, a house just being abandoned. I mean, you see them everywhere. Even in London, you see houses just abandoned, and you're like, big houses empty because some decision obviously went wrong somewhere, or maybe someone was alone and the next of kin wasn't identified, and some, things like that. So I think it's always good to have something, but it's hard to think ahead, really. So I actually can't quite answer your question, but that's maybe a little bit of an answer.
I think you really did try, in terms of attempting the question. I think my point really is that families need to be very, very deliberate and intentional in how you prepare the children. It doesn't matter whether it's female or male. I think the preparation really starts from when they're young, right? Getting their interest in the family business. Yours was very easy, right? Because you guys just had this natural flair or interest in media and all whatnot. But in some other families, it may not be exactly like that. And so I feel like the family being very deliberate, in preparing their children. And, there are instances where the children also may not necessarily want to run the business. And that's a reality that a lot of families are facing. And I think that families definitely then need to, face the reality and prepare the children to be responsible owners while they build the management structure around the business, build a proper institution with the right governance structures that allows the business to continue to thrive, whether or not, any of the next generation is working in the business. And of course, I believe that the second generation can also be prepared to sit on the board of the family business, because you're then able to contribute to decision making, right? You can represent the interest of the family, making sure that they're making the right decisions as much as possible. So I think that your perspective has been very, very good in terms of bringing all of these things to bear and just sharing practical, example of how this has worked in your own family. So any last words, you know?
Yes, actually, following on from what you said, you reminded me. I think for me personally, it's about the name. So you're right, not every member might want to, be involved, but if you have, as you said, board memberships, maybe that can be defined. Maybe at least one of the children should be a board member, and it's just treated like a company, just the way a company would be treated, and it can be sustained. I mean, Bill Gates and all these big names that we know about, they let go. They're not there day to day running things, but their name's going to last. So I think I'm trying to approach it that way, but because of the name, and then it can evolve into different directions and different sectors. So I think that's what I would like to say about that.
Okay, I think that's about it. Do we have any questions? Anybody particularly interested in asking them, any questions on this very important topic of passing the torch to the next generation? Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I have one question which for either of you. How would you approach working with other families who are trying to do similar things, not just in Nigeria, but across geographies, across sectors? Has there been maybe a case study you could share with us or yourself as well? I know you guys have gone to various cities to do summits, and how have you found yourself working with other families along the way?
So I'll hand over to Natalie because I think she's more of an expert than I am, but I definitely think it's something to be open about because, imagine, that's back to my point about look at it like a business. Businesses collaborate, they do joint ventures, they do things together, there are mergers or whatever. Why not? A family business is a business, isn't it? So I think but I don't have much experience in this, but it's definitely something I think sounds sensible. But perhaps from your network and some of the families you've met, you've seen it happen?
Our business is based on trust, it's based on relationships, it's based on doing business on a handshake. I come from a family business background as well, and as much as we work with very innovative companies, we have a very old-fashioned way of doing business. So it's a great question, Nella. I think as we expand in Nigeria, hopefully, our business will be very much the same as the way we work in London, in LA, in the GCCs, in Asia. It's very much through relationships, through introductions, through not only what can we sell to you, but how can we help you and how can we partner together to collaborate and build something together. Because that's what I love about family businesses. It's all about what we can both do rather than how we can benefit one party or another.
Exactly. And if I can just add to what she said, I run a multi-family office. So what that means is that we deal with a lot of family businesses, in Africa and also beyond Africa. So what we do is we're able to facilitate, these meetings where families can meet, they can rub minds together, they can share ideas, you see what is working, and you're able to share how you're navigating, the similar challenges you would imagine, different families. And when you're able to bring them together in a way that allows them to be able to, foster that relationship for mutual exchange of knowledge, you see that a lot more people are able to benefit from that, right? And for us, we're really particular about helping families build the right structure that allow them to be able to transcend generations. So when you have the structures in place, what I hear a lot from what Anita said is that there's a lot of structure, so it just made it very easy for them to just ride, on that, and they're able to just step into the shoes of their parents and get, the ball rolling and get the business running. So I think that structure is really important, and that's what a family office structure, for instance, will provide for you. She's talking about constitution, she's talking about policies, she's talking about this and that, rules of engagement within the family. When you have a family office structure, it allows you to be able to put all of that in place so that when the time is right and the next generation needs to step to the stage, it's pretty easy, right? I hope I've been able to do justice to your question. Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, so if we don't have any, I think we're done. Joyce?
And that's exactly why we asked you to moderate the session, because you are the experts in family businesses and running family businesses and going from one generation to the other. So please thank Abiola Adediran for moderating this session. Thank Anita for sharing out of her heart, her experience, and also thank Natalie for bringing all that you came with, wearing our Nigerian dress and speaking to the issues that face family businesses generation to the next. Please appreciate them very warmly and resoundingly. Thank you so much.